Well, hey everybody, it's great to be with you this last week of our series through the Beatitudes on our daily devotions. And I want to look at Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 1 today. It says, "Seeing the crowds, Jesus went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him." And you might remember that in this series, we talked about how this is similar to Moses going up on the mountain, the symbolism of all of that, when Moses went up to get the Ten Commandments and then came back down and taught the people. It's interesting that Jesus goes up the mountain just as like Moses did, but he takes his followers with him. And I think that shows the gap that existed between God and humanity. Jesus came to bring together. And then it says, and then he opened his mouth and taught them. And then he launches into what's called the Sermon on the Mount. And the portion that we've been looking at is the first few verses of Matthew 5 called the Beatitudes. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And then Jesus kind of concludes this section in verse 13 by saying this: "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." It's interesting that Jesus, after he finishes the Beatitudes, he talks about us being salt and light, that living according to his way, according to these values of being poor in spirit and meek and humble and seeking after God's justice in this world. All of these values that Jesus just talked about, he connects that with the idea that as we live those values out in our world, we are like salt is to food. It brings out the flavor. It produces goodness. It produces sustainability, because salt was often used as a preservation. And then also that we are light, right? That we bring light to a very dark world, not by our own deeds or by our own work or by our own efforts, but through living the way of Jesus. That's where the light comes from, and that it brings light to everyone. I think that's an important distinction that Jesus consistently makes. He talks later about how just a little bit of yeast will go through the whole loaf of bread. And it's that same kind of idea that the light that we shine is for everyone. It's not just for a select few or for those who call themselves Christians. The light that we shine through the way of Jesus impacts our entire world. It impacts the way in which we live and love and have relationship with others. It's all encompassing, so to speak. And he says, just like your salt, just like your light, just in the same way, let your light shine. And the way that Jesus asks us to do that is through our good works, through living a good life. And the good works that we do are the things that he just mentioned in the Beatitudes, and the things that he's going to mention later in Matthew 5, that as we live good lives, as we help others, as we serve others, as we live into the way of Jesus, there is a sense that people will see that, and not everyone will accept it or receive it, but they'll see it, and the possibility of the glory of God being seen by them increases exponentially. And so as we look at this last week, as we look at the Beatitudes one last time, would you allow these upside down principles, these seemingly backwards principles, enliven you this week to be salt and light, not just this week, but every week from this day forward, that we would